Now, when you say limbs, there's 8 limbs. Can you go into that a little bit to give us a brief overview?
Sure. Well, the traditional system, or actually it's called a philosophy in India, of yoga was defined or written down by a sage named Patanjali.
Yes.
And he defined 8 limbs of yoga, and some will be familiar. The first 2 have to do with conduct, the do's and the don'ts, sort of like the 10 Commandments, if you will. Then we have asanas, which are the postures that we all know so well from yoga studios that are everywhere.
Yes.
Then we have pranayama, which is breathing techniques. And then we have something called pratyahara, which is the phenomenon of sensory perception introverting to the inner life. And then there are 3 stages of mental technique: concentration, meditation, and samadhi. Samadhi is the inner silence I was referring to earlier, which we experience from meditation, and we build in our daily life through meditation. Then there's another class of practice called samyama, which is a special technique for moving stillness out into our everyday life. And we cover all of those in AYP and a few other things, too. You mentioned Tantra Yoga. The traditional yoga and Tantra Yoga have a huge amount of overlap. In the West, I think Tantra Yoga is sort of gotten a lot of press because of the sexual aspect of it, and there are important things that can be learned and applied in that area as well. And AYP is pretty strong in that area too. So anyway, that's yoga. So when people think about yoga, they think about their local yoga studio and somebody doing a shoulder stand, but that's really only one of the 8 limbs.
Yes.
So we look at all of the limbs, and we're really looking to pull all the levers in the human nervous system to have this process of human spiritual transformation going on in an effective and safe way.
And do you cover Kriya Yoga at all?
Well, Kriya Yoga is a branch of yoga that's been around for a long time, and there are elements from Kriya Yoga that are in the AYP system. But AYP is not affiliated with any particular tradition. So some people call AYP mantra yoga, and some people call it Kriya Yoga, and some people call it Kundalini Yoga, and others call it Tantra Yoga. It's really not any of those things, but it draws on all of those things, including Kriya Yoga.
Yes. Well, we're about to start, we're in a new year right now, and I always think it's good to start a new year with something really positive and uplifting and affirming. What, for those of our listeners who haven't ever dabbled in any of the branches of yoga, what could you give to them today? Maybe something that they could practice at home on their own and feel what it is that we're talking about and why we think it's so special.
Yeah. Well, these are difficult times right now for a lot of people, and there's a lot of stress out there, I know, and I feel, my heart goes out to everyone, and I think 2009 would be a very good time to make a little resolution to sit down for 15 or 20 minutes twice a day and do a very simple meditation technique. There's one available for free in AYP. It is central to everything we do in AYP. But it doesn't have to be AYP. If somebody wants to go and begin another system of meditation, I don't have a problem with that. But we do have lessons in deep meditation on the website. If you go to the website, you'll see right at the top left side of every page of the website there are key lessons, and one of them is deep meditation. So just to make that commitment to do that every day will do a huge amount to relieve a lot of the angst and anxiety that's going on out there. And it's really what we need to be doing now. I think the message of these times is we have to look beyond our bank account and our physical existence to find real peace and happiness. And that's what meditation is about. It's about finding peace and happiness within ourselves, and it also happens to make us much more effective in daily living.
Absolutely. It makes our lives run so much smoother.
Yes, it does. So that would be my suggestion to everyone, and I really think 2009 is going to be a great year. And
I have a sense of it too. I have a very strong sense of joy in this year that is beyond what we've had in the past, and really reaching out to others and connecting.
Yes.
Let's give your website out again for those who may have just joined us. It's www.AYP, that's for Advanced Yoga Practices, AYPsite.org.
That's right, and it's site as in website, S-I-T-E. So it's AYPsite.org. And I wish all your listeners the very best this year. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to share with you.
What would you say, as far as from the breathing? You have the spinal breathing pranayama. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. Is that how important that is in your meditation practice?
That's a very important practice. It's a simple breathing technique, but it's also very powerful, and it makes meditation much more powerful. And meditation makes spinal breathing pranayama much more powerful. So the two techniques done in succession really make for a much more powerful practice. And the way we do that in AYP is we begin with deep meditation. That's the first thing we learn. And then once we feel comfortable and stable in that practice, which might be a few months or whatever, then the lessons will lead you into spinal breathing pranayama practice, which is a simple breathing practice we do for about 5 or 10 minutes before we meditate. We don't do these two practices at the same time. We first do our breathing technique, and then we do our meditation. And the deep meditation that we use in AYP is not on the breath. It's using a mantra, a universal mantra, which is a sound that we think. We don't speak it out. We think it. So those two techniques together are very powerful, and spinal breathing pranayama is a very important practice in AYP. In fact, the spinal breathing pranayama works on the ecstatic conductivity side that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Cultivating the neurobiology to conduct ecstatic energy more effectively through a purification process with the breathing and tracing the spine in a particular way. And then the deep meditation cultivates the inner silence. So there you have the ecstatic conductivity and the inner silence together in two practices.
For those of our listeners who are not familiar with ecstatic conductivity, and have never experienced it, it really is something that once you have experienced, you always want to go back to. I think it's difficult. It's kind of addictive.
Well, the nice thing about these practices and the purification that occurs in the nervous system is that it's a permanent clean out. So once you have gotten going, so to speak, and reached certain levels of purification, you have those experiences with you all the time. You go out into your work and into your relationships, and you have that stillness inside, so you can deal with situations better. And you have that sort of ecstatic feeling bubbling up from within that colors everything you do. It adds a sweet love to everything that you do. So it's not a one-time. Now, people will come along and say, oh, I had this big bliss experience, and where did it go? How do I get it back?
Yes.
Those things happen, but what we're aiming for is the permanent transformation.
Yes. So that you're in that realm all of the time.
That's right.
And functioning.
That's right. That's what we call human spiritual transformation. It is the word enlightenment is a very elusive word because the journey never really ends. So what is enlightened? I guess it's how you feel this year compared to the way you felt last year. If you feel much better, you're much more enlightened. And then next year you'll feel even better.